Albert Breer of the MMQB joins us. What's up, buddy?
Jeez, that was a weird one. It's been a long show, I guess.
It has been a long show. Yeah. I mean, we had a whole nice show planned, and then the Flacco trade happened, and then we just we've been doing a different show all day long. Were you surprised at the Flacco trade?
I'm not surprised that Cincinnati went and got a quarterback. I am surprised that Cleveland traded them that quarterback, if that makes sense. So, I mean, you can dig into that and speculate. And, I think, Joe's season as far as, being on the field was probably over anyway. It's just interesting when, a team helps another team in its own division that way. And, you can read into that whatever you want. It's either, eventually that roster spot goes to Deshaun Watson. Maybe they want to, take a look at Bailey Zappi at some point and pull him up. There are a zillion different things. But, I think the first thing that crosses your mind when you see something like that is, well, that probably means Cleveland thinks that Joe Flacco is not going to hurt them with the Bengals, which maybe Joe can file that one away for when they play.
Wait, was there any part of this deal where the Browns are going to come back around and say, well, we did it because we wanted to do right by Joe?
I think I think that there's part of that. I honestly think that there's a lot of love for Joe in that building, regardless of where they're at on him as a player. Because as you guys know, those can be two different things, right? Like where you're at with the person and then where you're at with the player. I could certainly see a scenario where, they say, well, we saw an opportunity for Joe to get on the field and this is going to allow for it to happen. It's still in division though, and so that part of it's just an interesting twist, I would say.
Albert, who starts more games for the Browns this season, Shedeur Sanders or Deshaun Watson?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know. As weird as this whole quarterback situation is, it has been, and I haven't checked in, but I know there was a thought that Deshaun was going to get cleared at one point, it was going to be late October, early November. I don't know if that's still the rough timeline that they're working on. Again, I haven't checked in on that in a while, but if Deshaun gets back into the practice setting, I think there's a pretty decent chance that it starts to show up in practice. He looks like he might be the best option. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, so you do see a path where it would go Gabriel into Deshaun, and what happens to Shedeur then? Is Shedeur just?
Well, here's the thing. I felt this way all along, right? Let's just take Shedeur Sanders' last name out of it. All right. Who does the Browns franchise have more invested in? Who does the Browns franchise have a better chance of getting it right long term with? I think it's still Deshaun Watson. And maybe that's just me being a prisoner of what happened from 2017 to 2020, where he had grown into being one of the best quarterbacks in football. And remember, in 2020, he did it on a bad team. You know what I mean? He was sort of the shining star in a really tough situation there. At the end of the Bill O'Brien era in Houston. So I don't know. I know there's been a feeling how locked in has Deshaun been? Where's his head at for all this? How did, everything over the last few years, regardless of what you think about him personally, how did that affect him as a player? I think all of that, it's valid to look at it. And I don't know. Is there a chance he comes back as it comes back, different and motivated? I think it's possible, and here's the thing, guys. If I asked you right now, who's got a better chance of being a really good NFL quarterback 3 years from now, Deshaun Watson or Shedeur Sanders, how would you answer that?
I'd say Shedeur.
I'd say Shedeur too. I think Deshaun is all the way washed.
Yeah, and he's very injured. He just even if you take the playing aside, he just gets injured all the time.
Okay, you think he's done? I just think it's we have so much proof that Deshaun can play at a high level in the NFL, and we have zero that Shedeur can do it. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I still have that in my head. They got to pay him for next year anyway. So do you want to get a more firm answer on what he is as a player at this point before you decide whether or not you want to just pay him $46 million to go away? It's a really, really interesting question. I mean, I don't know. Like, if I'm the Browns and he all of a sudden looks like awesome in practice for a couple of weeks, I'm tempted to see what he looks like on the game field, especially when you're in this sort of transitional year where you can kind of take a free look at whoever you want, at least down the stretch when, presuming they're eliminated from any realistic shot at the playoffs at some point in November, December.
Albert, I want to ask you about, we played a clip with Bruce Arians earlier today, and he had said the whole coaching world had basically turned on Stefanski, and when asked why, he was like, well, he just didn't win enough games. From people you talk to across the league, have they turned on Kevin Stefanski?
Wait, say who's turned on Stefanski? The players?
No, the coaches, coaches across the league, according to Bruce Arians, when they talk about Stefanski, they just don't talk about him the same way, and they've turned on the idea that he's some great quarterbacks coach, etc. He feels like the wins have gotten in the way of anything that was good for Stefanski.
I don't get the sense that I don't know. I mean, BA knows a lot of people, and BA's been around forever, so I wouldn't want to contradict anything he's saying. I mean, like, the coaching community can be close-knit and also kind of petty at the same time. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, you guys, you probably wouldn't be surprised to see some of the comments that get made when somebody else fails, Mm-hmm. Like, that's pretty common. And, like, there are cases, like, where, a guy will get built up to be something, and then, like, for example, I'll give you a good example. Like, Chris Ballard, who's really well respected among scouts in the NFL, I think people on that side of the business felt like he was too media friendly, and that the media built him up to be a great general manager when he hadn't accomplished much. Then the Andrew Luck thing happens, right? And so, like, I know a lot of like personnel people that would get after me and be like, well, why aren't you going after Chris Ballard? And how long does the Andrew Luck crutch, how long does he get that for? And I can see where maybe that exists a little bit with Kevin, where, if they feel like somebody's getting some more rope than a guy normally would, for whatever reason it is, they'll pounce on it. Maybe it's something like that.
Albert, right now, would you put money on Dillon Gabriel starting the entire rest of the season for the Browns?
I think he's going to play well, guys. I mean, I don't know. Didn't you guys think he looked good on Sunday?
I think we used adequate and acceptable.
Yeah, I said acceptable.
All right. So, do you look at him? I may have used this comp with you guys before. Do you guys look at him and think, like, he could be Chase Daniel for the next 15 years?
I kind of thought like a lefty Colt McCoy, but yeah, same vein.
Okay. So, that's my thing is, if he can at least get you to a point where Jerry Jeudy's got a chance to make plays, Harold Fannon's got a chance to make plays, you can do some stuff with Quinshon Judkins and Dylan Sampson out of the backfield. If he gets you to a place where you can, really kind of keep your young players growing, keep guys locked in, that's valuable, And so, I just think, seeing how far Dillon Gabriel can take you is a piece of this, and evaluating is a piece of this, but there's also the fact that you got to evaluate the other 10 guys in the huddle, right? So, do I think there will come a point when they want to look at Shedeur? Probably. Yeah, I think there probably is. But do I think it's going to come at the cost of Jerry Jeudy performing, or Harold Fannin performing, or David Njoku performing? Do I think it's going to come at that cost, where it's going to be a detriment to everybody else being able to do their job for a 4 or a 5 or a 6 game stretch? Probably not. I don't think a coach can do that. So, that's sort of, I think, Shedeur in his development is gonna have to prove to the coach in a practice setting that he can get to that level, and I think that's when they take a look at him.
Albert, we saw you tweeting out just earlier in the week about just how great the other draft picks on this team are and how they've looked. And obviously, you're highlighting Judkins and Graham and Schlesinger and all of these guys. Has it been enough of a class to really be redemptive for Andrew Berry?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, look, like, there's a lot of pressure on those guys, right? Like, because they still have, the blood from the Deshaun Watson trade on their hands, and like, they gave up 3 first-round picks, and there's an effect to that. And the reality is they're feeling the effect of that now. Like, that's not something that you just feel in the moment. Like, those first-round picks would be, I believe, it'd be second, third, and fourth-year players now, right? So, like, those would be guys who would be big-time contributors on your team if you hit on them, and they would be doing it at a reasonable price, which would allow you to build your team more aggressively. So you lost that, over 3 years, and that means the path to rebuilding has gotten a little bit more narrow. And so, like, this does look like a really good class. And look, like, I think that, playing a lot of snaps as a rookie is one thing. Developing into a guy that your team really wants to re-sign, 2.5 years down the line, that's something different. So they haven't arrived, but the start is very, very promising. And I think Sanders looks like a legitimate weapon. Judkins looks to me like the type of, back that you can build a run game around. Graham and Schlesinger look like foundational pieces on a defense to me. So, I mean, I just named 4 guys there, right? Was that 5? 4. 4 guys there, right? Mm-hmm. And then, you throw Dylan Sampson in, you throw Dylan Gabriel in, now you're up to 6. That's a good draft class. And you have 2 first-round picks next year to work with, which, is part of the whole equation when you were trading out of the second pick.
Albert, how is the NFL world reacting to Bill Belichick falling flat on his face through the first 5-6 games of UNC's season?
You heard what I just said, Nick, about, like, people sending snide texts to each other and everything else?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's just say that network is on fire right now. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe how bad it's gotten. I just – the crazy thing about it, guys, is, like, he's not dumb. He's a good football coach. Like, I refuse to believe, like, that our eyes were lying to us in every single way over the last – 2.5 decades. So it's just he can't get out of his own way. And I do think part of it is the infrastructure he had in New England for so long. Whether the types of guys he had in the locker room, Brady was obviously a massive part of their success and allowed them to do things a certain way. It wasn't just how great a player Brady was either. It was how you could coach Brady hard and how Brady had his foot on the pedal more than anybody else. The example he set, the leeway that Brady gave them to coach everyone hard, the value of that was off the charts for Belichick. And then there were people in that building, and it isn't even like just the assistant coaches and the front office people. Some of the support staff that have been with him forever that's not there in North Carolina. Ernie Adams was one of those, of course, and he wasn't there at the end in New England, but he had been there. Bears Najarian is at Boston College with Bill O'Brien now. He was his chief of staff. He kind of kept them organized. I think you're seeing there were a lot of things in New England that were helping Bill focus on what he was really good at. And, I think you can really see that some of those gaps haven't been filled in with what he's got down in North Carolina.
Albert, we got a boogie, but great stuff as always. Appreciate you.
Sorry for the lateness there, guys. I think I owe you 6 or 7 minutes. Is that right?
We'll make it good in time. Don't worry. we always take up about 20 minutes of your time. We'll get there.
Thank you, Albert.
Awesome. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Albert Breer on the Fan Hotline.